Support for this episode comes from Modern Football Technology. Modern Football Technology provides real-time opponent tendencies and self-scout while eliminating manual data entry into Huddle, DV Sport, and Exos. If you're tired of tools that are time-consuming to learn and perform inconsistently at best, then we recommend Modern Football for a fresh perspective. Schedule a demo today at teammofo.com to see a battle-tested tool that's proven to perform and deliver value. Mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code CC10 to receive 10% off your first year. And listen to our recent episode featuring Folsom High School defensive coordinator Jordan Ersick to learn more about how the 2023 California State Champion uses modern football to dominate their opponents.
What made me go to this, kind of hang my hat, even when I was at Charlotte and Colin, and we were at Tulane and Georgia Southern, we were a little bit more power. But the gap scheme is because of the evolution of D-line play and how they are man attacking and not much gap attacking anymore. So, we were having a hard time because, when the zone scheme came and I come to clinic, everybody talking about the outside zone, the inside zone, the tight zone. And we were having trouble on those combos because those D linemen were playing really tight to those man blocks and also with the 3-down schemes and things like that. We were having a hard time with my old school half and half combos. So I was searching, and I've always run a little bit of counter and power, but I decided that this is the route I was going to go to kind of counterbalance the way D-line play is going now to the man attack with the Pete Jenkins stuff and the two hands on and the gap peeking and playing the gap and a half to be able to stop the run with less numbers and kind of play the box with the D-line to be able to handle a gap and a half or two gaps. And I thought the gap scheme probably gives us the best chance to counterbalance defenses when we kind of, play against that kind of scheme. So
in the coaching profession, we all like to say the right thing. In other words, use coach speak. A favorite for all of us is to have a hang your hat on play. Ultimately, though, we're judged by how we get it from the chalkboard to the grass, as Coach Wylie likes to say. The results of what Florida State has done with its counterplay shows that they've done just that. Gotten that play from the chalkboard to the grass. Their play was the counter, and they were number one in the country in attempts in the counter scheme in college football, running it 164 times. They were also the number one in rushing yards off of the counter, and in addition, they were number one in yards before the running back was touched on the counter. All impressive numbers. In this insightful segment from the C.O.O.L Clinic, Alex Atkins, the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach at Florida State University, discussed the importance of teaching rather than telling when it comes to coaching. Coach Atkins shared his own experiences learning from his mentors, how attending the C.O.O.L Clinic influenced his career path and his decisions to focus on the counterplay in response to the evolution of defensive line play. He shares the benefits of running the counterplays over the traditional zone scheme and the importance of understanding the defensive line play in order to use it to your advantage. He dives into the concept of physicality in football and how to best define it in order to gauge effectiveness as coaches. You'll enjoy this segment. He did a great job. After this part that we shared here, he got into sharing the video of their counterplay, and I highly recommend checking that one out. You could get that as part of the C.O.O.L Clinic Premium Pass and have access to that for a year. That will also be available on CoachTube. What you see on tape is a direct reflection of what you teach and how you teach. Video is important, but if you don't teach well, you're not going to like what you see on your video. First Down Playbook has been helping coaches teach better for 13 years. It allows you to present installs, playbooks, and practice cards in half the time with NFL quality. Coaching tools like video pairing, a player app, practice schedules, and wristband sheets have made First Down Playbook a program management system with everything in one place. If you're in a position of leadership with your football program, receive a free 1-week look at First Down Playbook. Call them at 512-814-6158 or visit them on their website or social media. Mention Coach and Coordinator Podcast or use the coupon code COACH24 to receive a $100 discount off the normal $700 First Down Playbook team membership price. Links and the phone number are in the show notes.
I have a wonderful time doing this, bringing you these tremendous, talented coaches and presenters and guys that get it from my favorite thing is from the chalkboard to the grass. Okay, we have another one here in Allen Atkins down at Florida State. I'm really awed by you. I just got done watching Coach Wylie. In fact, he may be still talking. And the organization and the details that goes into what they tell you is priceless. It truly is priceless. Okay, and I said I was gonna give you one of my favorite sayings before each, like words of wisdom. This one here, right? Write this one down. Teach them, don't tell them. There's a big difference in teaching them and telling them. So the first one I gave was the problem with knowing everything is you can't learn anything new. That's the first one. This is the second one today. Teach them, don't tell them. There's a big difference in teaching them and telling them. Alex, you got them. Have fun, buddy. I'll be watching.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Well, number one, it's an honor to be here because when I was a young GA, Jeep Wade, who was the O-line coach at Georgia Tech, I played for him. And I told him I wanted to be an O-line coach after I got done playing. And he brought me to Cincinnati to this clinic. When he brought me to this clinic, he basically said, hey, if you want to be a line coach, I'm going to take you up. I go to this clinic every year. So I go to the clinic and I'm just, I've got a notebook and I'm just writing everything down. And I hear a guy speak, which kind of inspired my career. I've never even had a conversation with this coach. And his name was Joe Wickline. He was at Oklahoma State at the time. And I kind of wanted to learn all the fundamental basics and how to get in the stance and, and the hands and, all the fundamental things. But one thing I noticed in that clinic when you're talking about becoming a better line coach was he was coordinating the run. And what he talked about was outside zone checks versus basically your old NCAA pressure, where they bring in too often edge, dropping the end and rolling the coverage strong. And he talked about how they check outside zone into this pressure. And that just blew my mind because I'm like, okay, I'm thinking O-line coach is just, I go down there, I do my drills, the coordinator tells me what to do, and then, I implement the scheme, and then I go about my business and I go back to my little corner over there and I work fundamentals until I can't work them anymore. But coming to that clinic inspired me not only to be better at fundamental teaching and coaching, but also to coordinate the run and have answers in run game, which inspired me to, of course, working down here and becoming the offensive coordinator, of learning more or broadening my viewpoint on not just coaching the run game or coaching the fundamentals, but being able to coordinate the run game overall. And that kind of inspired my career moving forward. I went a lot of places and had a lot of success, but that's why I was honored to come do this clinic, because it's kind of like going full circle. I went from the guy in the back with my Russell polo tucked in and my khakis a little bit too tight with a pencil because I knew I was going to have to erase a lot because I was trying to write so fast of looking and writing to a guy that's able to present. So this is a blessing and a long time coming. I'm almost nervous. I've spoken a lot of things in the media and all this kind of stuff, but this is probably the most nervous I've been because that's an honor I am to come speak at this clinic. And I can't wait till we get back together and do it in person. So with that being said, today I'm going to talk about a simple concept that we run here at Florida State and that I believe in, and kind of the way defense is going is what made me kind of go this route and picking a particular run scheme to hang my hat on. Now, this run scheme is not uncommon or unforeign. We're going to talk about the counterplay. And what made me go to this, kind of hang my hat, even when I was at Charlotte and calling, and we were at Tulane and Georgia Southern, we were a little bit more power. But the gap scheme is because of the evolution of D-line play and how they are man attacking and not much gap attacking anymore. So, we were having a hard time because, when the zone scheme came and I come to clinic, everybody talking about the outside zone, the inside zone, the tight zone. And we were having trouble on those combos because those D linemen were playing really tight to those man blocks and also with the 3-down schemes and things like that. We were having a hard time with my old school half and half combos. So I was searching, and I've always ran a little bit of counter and power, but I decided that this is the route I was going to go to kind of counterbalance the way D-line play is going now to the man attack with the Pete Jenkins stuff and the two-hand zone and the gap peeking and playing the gap and a half to be able to stop the run with less numbers and kind of play the box with the D-line to be able to handle a gap and a half or two gaps. And I thought the gap scheme probably gives us the best chance to counterbalance defenses when we kind of, play against that kind of scheme. So what I started doing was I started tailoring the game plans to say, all right, based upon how the D-line or the defense kind of attacks gaps or attacks man, let's adjust the scheme to how they're playing it. And that was, back at Georgia Southern. Now that went to, now let's just find a way to make this our hard hat, we believe in run game, and let's tailor it to kind of fit us the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about, my belief and why we love the counterplay so much. I'm going to talk about some basic fundamental concepts of the counterplay, of how we pull and what we key and how we combo and things like that, and different schemes. And then I'm going to go into more of I'm going to have the film presented after we go through the fundamentals. And what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to pull up clips of counter variation. And I'm doing that because I was inspired when I came to the clinic about, not just running the counter in between the tackles, but different ways we present the counter scheme to counterbalance how the defense is attacking or what they're keying. So I'm going to have those clips, and I'm going to have the reasons why we're running the counter the way we're running it. And I'm going to talk about all the intricacies and the details of the play during the clip. Talk about the combo, the pull, and, I put a lot of imperfect clips on there too, because I want to talk about the bad stuff too, and the stuff that, won't make us look like we got all the answers. But I also want to kind of hit the details of why we're in pistol. Why does the back alignment have anything to do with it? Why the quarterback alignment, why the tight end's eyes, and why we're in this formation, and why the tight end is weak or why the tight end is strong. Going into a little bit more detail on why we're running the play, and not just, just because, play where I think like, I'm just tougher than everybody else. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to take it a little bit step further. I'm going to go past the run game portion of it and talk about things off of the counter to give different presentations. We're going to talk about the screen game off of gap scheme. We're going to talk about play action off of gap schemes, the passes, and the things that we do off of it, which kind of makes this scheme where it can be all encompassed, where not only is it going to develop that physical mentality, because we run the counter and stick your chest out a little bit, but also be able to handle movement, be able to have answers versus pressure, to be able to throw off schemes, basically how the defense is keying you, whether they're keying the fish, whether they're keying the turn of the quarterback, whether they're keying the back's alignment, and how you can take advantage of that. But also things that kind of evolve past to kind of bat some relief. Because one thing that the coach used to always tell me was, this was Coach Fritz at the time, he said, it's always easier to be tough in somebody else's body. So when you run a scheme like the counter and you got that guard pulling and you call that thing 30 times, it's easy for me to get fired up and celebrate on the sideline, but I also got a man that's running into another man over and over and over again, which is fun to watch, and fun to do. But we also want to make sure we have some balance and batting some relief from those guys, so we don't have a concussion protocol every time we have an inside period. So I'm going to talk about those things, and I'm going to share my screen here and kind of get everything started.
As coaches, we know that some of the biggest hurdles to our team's success can come from off the field. Your team needs support to tackle the endless list of expenses, uniforms, training equipment, travel, and more. But raising that money can feel like a full-time job. Thankfully, there's Vertical Raise. Vertical Raise is the premier online fundraising platform using innovative technology to create the easiest and most efficient system available. Raise more money in less time with a local fundraising coach who works with your team every step of the way to customize the ideal fundraiser. With options for online donations, digital discount cards, premium product sales, and even spirit shops, Vertical Raise has top-of-the-line solutions for every fundraising style. To find out more, visit verticalraise.com and we'll get you connected with an exclusive offer on your first fundraiser.
Sorry, the first thing we'll talk about is, when I say counter, we believe in counter. Like we not only preach it and talk about it, but we believe in it. We were number one in the country in rush attempts in the counter scheme in college football. We ran it 164 times, a different variation. This doesn't count some of the other variations we have on it, whether they be reverses, screens, draws, and different little unique things. But as far as lining up and running the counter, we were number one in college football, which is a little proud badge that our guys like to wear because, we love gap schemes, and it kind of helps them a little bit of confidence, like we're going to run the gap scheme. Not only that, we did a decent job blocking it. We were number one team in rushing yards off the counter. And as you can see, I thought, West Kentucky and Oregon did a good job. We were number one in actually yards gained when we do run the counter. So it wasn't just to play the coordinator likes, it was actually productive for us. And the last thing, this is a big one for us when we talk about the yards before the running back is touched, because we got good backs. We got a good quarterback, and we got a guy that can carry the ball. But what I always want to measure is, how many yards that we're getting before someone touches us. I might say I like countering and it's good, but are we effectively coaching it? Are we effectively running it? And are we getting yards and going vertical on this play to gain yardage? Or are we just, saying we like it just to say we tough? But no, this is probably my favorite. We were number one team in counter rush yards before contact, and kind of gives the viewpoint of how many yards we did get when we did call it with the rush attempts that we got. So I thought that was good. And also, this is a big thing, the explosive fronts, which when you run a gap scheme or tight zone scheme, the explosives are hard to get, and we were number one in running explosive, but not by much. I mean, Oregon's right there. They do a phenomenal job, them in Western Kentucky. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is defining physicality, because, I talk about, like, hey, we want to be physical. We want the counter to be what we do. We hit you in the mouth. But what I learned was, and Bob just said this, which is important, is that I was telling them to be physical and not teaching them how to be physical. So I wanted to basically put a guideline on what physical was, that I can watch film and say, that's not physical, and these are the reasons why. So the things we talk about is violent hands. When you put your hands on a defender, is there a reaction from a defender to let me know he know that you put your hands on? If not, it's soft, then it's not a physical deal. And are you in control during the block? Basically, do you maintain leverage, that ball-me-man relationships that we learned from middle school of? Are you maintaining leverage during the block, using your hands as the guidance of control? So, if I say your hands are soft right there, it's falling into that category. The next thing is violent feet. We talk about what is violent feet, where your feet are always gaining ground. I tell them we're not stalk blocking, we're not buzzing our feet. I want those things gaining ground. I don't care if it's a little bit of incremental gain. We're always trying to move forward to fight for that physical kind of just gaining that yard, and I'm not a good golfer. So what I tell my guys, I'm just going to make sure I'm going to advance the ball. The last thing is violent hips. Snapping your hips on contact and things like that. Core engagement, maintaining block still kind of fits into that deal. So I wanted to give a definition of what we call physicality, and not just calling things soft without giving them the tools or the understanding of what I want and how physicality is described to us. I'm gonna go through these pretty quick. I mean, this is just basically what we talk about in the fit, hand position, aiming point, leverage, and we talk about eyes below eyes and square shoulders. We don't want to play on angles too much. We want to be vertical, unless we're setting an angle in a scheme. I think the most important thing is your initial contact in a block. Ensures leverage, be on track and things like that. And the last thing is the aim small, miss small. One of my favorite movies is The Patriot. And he talked about that when he gave his young sons the rifles, aim small, miss small, meaning we're not going to aim for the play side number. We're going to aim for the top tip corner of that number, or just little things to give them little smaller aiming points to help them get those tracks that we want to hit. Now we can talk about gap scheme. So counter, we talk about GY counter, GT counter. The base of the gap scheme philosophy is we all want to keep the ball going north and south. We talk about A-gap counter, which is a really staple. We talk about we want to go downhill. So we want to keep the ball running north and south. We don't want many lateral cuts if possible. Now, there is times that's one of the reasons why I love the counter, because if it's not an A-gap run and does happen to bounce, they use usually bigger plays off the bounce, which is always awesome. And then we want to find ways to create that near leg shoulder contact football position. And we want to talk about the physical identity, but also able to handle movement. And that's always that balance, because you say you want to get physical, you want to get off the ball, but you can't be that guy that's getting off the ball and physical and the guy slants and you can't block movement, because in college football today, if you can't, then man, you just run the scheme to run it.
Here are our winning edge takeaways and ideas for implementation. 1. Learn. Coach Atkins talked about how important his first experience at the C.O.O.L clinic was, and how learning there impacted the direction of his career and his focus as a coach. He continues to learn and grow, even though he's reached the position of offensive coordinator at the Power 5 level. 2. Study, analyze, and evolve. Coach Atkins studied how defensive techniques have evolved, while also evaluating what was making it difficult for the different schemes he was using. He settled on making the counterplay their base play because of the way they are able to handle today's defensive line play. Evolution never stops, but using what Coach Atkins did as an example, you can move your offense forward as trends in the game come and go. And number 3, establish a starting point play for your offense. This was a main theme in his talk and something that Chris Furster of the San Francisco 49ers spoke about as well in his talk. The Seminoles run counter better than anyone else, and a lot of their offense comes off of the counter play. Having a starting point play not only establishes that base play or that hang your hat on play, but it also establishes a thought process, a plan of attack, and adjustments on game day. Be sure to go to coachandcoordinator.com for our enhanced show notes, which includes related episodes, links to resources, and our winning edge takeaways detailed in text. Be sure to sign up for our weekly tip sheet, which highlights resources, tips from the previous week, top episodes, and more. Follow me on Twitter at Coach K. Grabowski.